Okay, so let's take a look at number 35 and 36. We did number 35 in class, but again, let's take the opportunity to just kind of make sure that you remember the concepts as they relate to parabolas. Um, when we have parabolas, we have three different forms. What we're being given here is the vertex form, right? So it's going to be something like that. We also have standard form, and we also have factored form. And you might remember in vertex form, we have the vertex, it's h comma k. Make sure you change the sign for the h, the x coordinate of the vertex. When you have standard form, you have the y-intercept sitting right there. The y is going to be equal to c when the x is equal to 0. All right, so that's the y-intercept. And finally, when we have factors, those factors become the x-intercepts. So r1 comma 0 and r2 comma 0. There's a change in sign when we go from factors into the x-intercepts. Okay, so we could have two x-intercepts or 1 or 0, but typically speaking in factored form, we're going to get two x-intercepts. We have a second equation here. That's a line, right? And we've talked about lines previously. Remember what I said about function notation? F of x equals y, and of course that applies to g. We're just using a different letter. So they're just saying that when the x is equal to a, the y is the same, or they're equal to each other. All right. So what we're going to see here is a situation where if we're looking for where the two y values are the same, we can just set them equal to each other, right? F and g are equal to each other. The y's are equal to each other. So negative 1/2 x minus 4 squared plus 10 is going to be equal to negative x plus 10. And in class, I walked through the process of solving this quadratic. You have to remember to do the foiling over here. And it looks super, super scary for some people. But just remember that you can always clear the fractions. So I'd probably clear the fractions by multiplying by -2. And that means that you do it for every single term on the left and the right side of the equal sign. So I'm not going to do all the work all the way. I'm just going to illustrate the end result of clearing the fractions. You'd get that and then go from there and move all your terms to the left and solve that quadratic. All right. And remember, when it says one possible value on these open-ended questions, there's one or more solutions. There might be several. This is a quadratic, so we're looking for two solutions probably, and you're going to pick one of them. Okay, now, when it comes to trigonometry, you need to know SOHCAHTOA. You need to know that tangent is equal to the sine over the cosine, and that comes from SOHCAHTOA. The opposite over adjacent tells us that sine over cosine is going to cancel out and become opposite over adjacent. And the final thing is if you have two angles that are complementary, right? In other words, x plus y equals 90 degrees, then sine of one angle is equal to cosine of the other angle. And the other way to say that is it's equal to the complement, so 90 minus x instead of cosine y. In this case here, we are splitting up that angle, right? We don't know how we're splitting it, but we're splitting up 90 degrees. So if we call that x and call that y, these two angles are complementary, right? It doesn't matter how they're split. These two measurements, because remember again, sine of x equals cosine of y, if the angles add up to be 90 degrees. So if we have the same value for both, what happens when we do a difference? It's equal to 0. All right, it's equal to 0. So we could prove this thing that we're doing here by using a right angle and walking through sine of x and how it's the opposite side, which is this side over here, and the hypotenuse, which is of course that side there. And then we do the same thing for cosine of y. And again, it's the adjacent angle now, but it's the same side, right? And the hypotenuse over there. So they're equal to each other there. Okay, but essentially, if you have it memorized, you don't have to do much work on this particular question if you make that observation. Okay, so okay, let's just finish it off here. When it comes to number 37 and 38, We're obviously using the two, well, the chart and the graph here. So it's a little bit intimidating, right? Like that's the word that we want to sort of like emphasize. Problems look intimidating when they're tough, but don't, just try your best to kind of like break it down. So for number 37, we are looking for something about how much penicillin there is. All right, I'm misspelling it, but that's okay. When there's 11 millimeters of blood, right? And we want it 5 minutes after, right? And we're comparing it, right? So the fact that they want more, we have to do a difference, right? We have to do subtraction. So this is one thing we have to find. And then we're comparing it versus when it's 8 millimeters of blood and it's 10 minutes. Okay. So let's check this out here. When it's 11 millimeters of blood, and they're saying go to the table. Okay, so 11 millimeters of blood. Oh, here we go. All right. Um, oh, sorry, milliliters. I keep saying millimeters, but it's milliliters, L. And oh, wait, there's a trick here. The table, the title is the important thing. That's per milliliter. We have to take these numbers and multiply by, in this case here, 11. Okay, so the key on number 37 is to realize, wait, we go to the 5 minute mark, right? That matches up what we want. But because it's per milliliter, and we said 11 milliliters, or we were told 11 milliliters, we have to multiply 152 by 11. Now, I'm going to do a quick estimate of that, all right? So it's going to be like 1500s-ish, right? It's going to be a little bit, of course, above that, because I'm kind of saying it's 150 times 10, but it's actually 152 times 11, all right? And then we have 8 milliliters of, or 10 millimeters again, and it's 10 minutes. So 10 minutes is right here. And if we want 8, we have to multiply the 118 times 8. And again, I'll just kind of do a quick estimate. I'll do like 120 times 8, and that's like 960. Okay? So our answer should be somewhere, let's say, 500, 600, something like that, it looks like. Okay? But that's, again, how to kind of just quickly break it down. I'm just kind of constantly like letting my eyes kind of shift back and forth between the pages. This is on the left, this is on the right, so it's not too bad, all right? But of course, if it was like on opposite pages, opposite sides of the page, just don't be afraid to flip back and forth really quickly. Same thing on the reading section, right? On the reading section, your eyes have to kind of shift back and forth between problem and answer choice and the passage itself. Okay, we've got one final question over here. And this is the exponential function, right? That fits the exponential function form that we're used to. Let's see here. We want the value of the b when it's rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, and then we're told that t represents the number of minutes. Oh, okay, so this is what we're going to do. The minutes is on the left. Oh, sorry. Oh, I forgot. They're saying we're looking at the function p. So we're actually not looking at the table. We are looking at the function over here. So just remember, in this situation, we are being given points, right? We are being given 0, 200. We're being given 5, 150. We're being given 10, looks like maybe 120, 125, something like that. Okay? So we might just kind of like look at this and say, okay, let's plug in an x value of 5 and a y value 150. If we do that, we can figure things out. Now, it's a little bit harder just because they're not using y and x like we're used to, but clearly they're using, instead of x and y, p and t. So when the t is 5, the p is 150. This is not a coordinate, but it's just like a coordinate because we're just reading a coordinate off the graph. So if we plug in a p and a t value, guess what? We can finish off and solve for that b. Okay, so I think that's a good way to end, right? One of the first questions we looked at, we were reminding you that, I was reminding you that coordinates are x and y values. And even on this hardest question, right, the last question of section 4, it went back to the idea that a coordinate is an x and a y value. We just had a little bit more information to kind of wade through. Okay, so hopefully that helps. And if you have any last minute questions, don't be afraid to send me a message in Google Classroom or email me. My email address is bingshen, BINGSHEN, @gmail.com. All right.